to practice it. And so you want to create good dating experiences. Every date might not be the one. And that mindset of look, I'm looking for the one will emit energy that you may not want to emit. Okay. So, not to say you can't date with intention. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, and not that every date should be an interview either. But I'm saying that when you're out dating, you want to be creating these really good experiences and creating dates and practicing talking to people and connecting and understanding the opposite sex and what they're putting out, right? And understanding, how to connect with them through conversation and through interaction. You can do that online. And it actually is saves you a lot of time, and you don't necessarily have to do it in person. So you don't have to spend a lot of time getting ready and then going and then feeling like you don't have a connection. And then like all of these things that we used to have to deal with dating back in the day, like you don't necessarily have to deal with that straight away. Right. And so I always have a process for dating online, and I talk to men and I know I have it down to a science. Like I know immediately what this guy is on, right? And I call it weeding out the suckers, actually. And I go through and I figure out who is worth the next step, right? And the next step for me is always texting. And I look for things like communication style. Do they communicate in a way that I vibe with, like I'm good with, and I look for things like, what they're on, like as far as their career, their personal growth, the things that interest me. And it's going to be different for everyone, right? It's going to be different for everybody. So, you know what you want because you wrote it down and what you're looking for, right? And if you didn't think about writing down what is the communication style, you should think about that because some people want to be texting all day and some people don't really want to text that much. They prefer a phone call. And some people, you know what I'm saying? So it's different for everybody. And you want to find someone that kind of meshes up with your style. Not to say that it has to be identical. You want to have some flexibility, but you don't want to pick someone who can't stand texting when you want to be texting all day because it's going to just drive you nuts, right? It's going to make you miserable. And it's probably not going to work anyway. So you could save yourself a lot of time. Also, you can also find out a lot of red flags through just the initial texting back and forth a little bit on the app. And like, it's a process. For me to even get off the app to you getting my phone number, it's a process, right? We have to have a vibe. And if we make it that far, then once you have my phone number and we text a little bit that way, I like to talk to you on the phone because you can't always hear their voice on the apps. So I like to hear their voice because that's a big deal for me. Sound is important. So then we talk on the phone, and if there's energy that way and it's good energy and it's a vibe, I'll tell you a quick story. Okay. So I talked to this one guy and we got to the phone call portion and we were having a great phone call. He was like really keen to take me out quickly. And that's a little bit, it's not necessarily a red flag, but people who rush the relationship always strike me as it's going to be problematic. It could be toxic, it could be love bombing, it could be a lot of things that have red flags associated to it, and I highly recommend always taking things slow. Okay? As slow as you feel comfortable with, but like don't rush. And if you're telling each other you love each other in 3 weeks at this stage in the game, listen, maybe you need a relationship coach or therapy or something because that is going to be a recipe for disaster 9 out of 10. Maybe not always, but generally speaking, right? And so you want to really feel like you are connecting with this person. And I felt like genuinely like, okay, it's a little bit of a vibe. I don't know. I'm unsure because he's really kind of pushing things a little bit. And so we come to the end of the conversation, and I'm thinking career wise, I'm not sure that we're a match. I like that he has goals, but I'd like someone a little bit more established. but to each their own, right? But he was a little bit younger than me. And that's something that you might have to deal with if you like men that are a little bit younger than you. And I have a range, right? So that's something I want. So you might want to write down what your age range is too. And so we get to the end of the conversation and he asks me, "What do I do?" So I start to tell him, "What do I do?" And he says to me, because he'd said just before he was going to call me the next day. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Because he had to go in a few minutes. But he asked me, what did I do? And as I started to tell him, well, I have this podcast and I'm a coach. And he said in a very loud voice, "I did not say tell me today. I said, tell me tomorrow." And I thought, wow, that was the first phone call. You already know what that's going to be. And I was like, first of all, take it down a notch. And second of all, there will be no call tomorrow. And I hung up the phone. See, so stages, because you're vetting people, you're doing your due diligence, right? So the next stage after that that I typically do with online dating is a video call. And if a guy's uncomfortable with meeting me for a video call before we go on a first date, I'm really uncomfortable with meeting him. First of all, I really don't like blind dates. And that's what online dating is. It's like essentially blind dates. I don't like that. I'm a safety girl. I like to err on the side of caution, number one. Number two, I just don't like blind dates. And I think if you meet for a video call before, and they have it set up through the app, they make it easy, you can get a lot of that initial nervousness out, and you can get kind of a more of a rapport going so that the first date is actually really fun and way more relaxed, right? And so that's what I typically like to do. So if a guy doesn't want to meet me for a video call, I usually will not go out with him. um so that's just my policy, but you have to make your own and what you're comfortable with, right? And so it might be you talk to him for a couple of weeks on the phone before you go out with him and you feel comfortable. I don't know, to each their own, but this is what works for me and hopefully it will work for you. And so that's part of my strategy before I even go out with them, right? And talking to them online also will help you practice talking to men, because if you haven't talked to a variety of men in a long time, or maybe you weren't that kind of girl when you were younger either, so you don't have those skills. And this will help you create those skills. Same way with men. Talking to women will help you get better at talking to women. It's a practice. And you can find out the feedback of what works and what doesn't work when people unmatch you. Right? And so you learn and you get better. And eventually, when you're talking to people in person, you have it down as well. Right. So on the other side of that is dating and meeting people in real life. And there's lots of places you can meet people. I feel like the best advice I ever got and followed and had success with was going out and doing things that I love doing and just being open, having open body language, like looking at people and smiling and being open. And that energy somehow is attractive, and people will often come talk to you. I like to go to events in LA and get dressed up and go out. And I have met tons of men that way, right? Like just being in an environment where I can look beautiful and be where men are, right? That is the plan. There's tons of like happy hours in really nice parts of town or wherever you like to go. Happy hour is a great place to meet men if you don't mind the drinking type, right? Or coffee shops, or but just anywhere you go, you could really meet men if you have open energy, and if you know there are single men there, right? That's also key, right? So, because sometimes it is hard to meet people if, once you're older, once you reach a certain age, right? So, that's why I really like dating online. Most people don't like it, but I do. So I also like meeting people in real life. And once you start doing that, once you get in the habit of conversing with people and just talking to random people is also a very good way to get used to talking to people. I mean, not even just men, but like women too, when you're out and about town and just being friendly and, people will converse with you.